Hey, what's up, Asbury University? This is Zach Monroe, and I'm coming to you take two for Mental Health Matters Edition, the Four Pillars of Mental Health, Relationships Part 2. And again, just want to let you guys know the whole goal, objective, mission for Mental Health Media is to provide educational resources for the students, you all, that we love dearly, in hopes that it will contribute to your individual and communal flourishing. And so this is, again, part two of Four Pillars of Mental Health Relationships. And so if you all haven't already, I would encourage you to check out the first video. We talked about the question, or we answered the question, what is involved in relationships? And the four R's: relational risks, ruptures, repairs, and renewals. And today we're going to be asking the question, how do relationships evolve, or how do they grow? And to do that, quite honestly, one of the best books that I've read on just super practical, very simple read, but highly applicable is called Destined for the Trinity by Pastor Wally Sherbon. And one of my previous mentors, bosses, gave me this book, and it really changed the way that I viewed not only my relationship with myself, but also with others. And this particular book comes from a Christian worldview, and it's talking about Trinitarian relationship. And so how the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, interacts with one another, and then how those relational dynamics can be applied from God to us. And so I'm not going to be taking it that route, but as a counselor, I thought the three big concepts that Wally provides for us, I love that name, Wally, that provides for us is very applicable and can kind of help us conceptualize, yet again, maybe the context that relationships must have in order for it to grow. And so if we were to ask the question, how do relationships evolve? I would say access, knowledge, and delight. But what in the world does that mean? I'm glad you asked, or have already turned this video off because you think it's lame. Regardless, we're going to dive in. So the first one, how do relationships evolve? Access. And again, I'm adapting it from the concepts that Pastor Wally Sherbon puts forward for our own uses, but the categories are helpful. And so to define access, it's relational access, increasing the connection between two or more people. And so essentially it's allowing more space, increasing the connection between two or more people. And practically what this might look like is offering resources. So an example of this might be, I call my buddy who I have access to. He's given me access to his life, to his time, and he offers me the resource of his time. I'm freaking out or overwhelmed or have something really good to share with him, and I call him up and he answers. He's giving me access to his life via the resource of his time. Another one might be access of deepening vulnerability. And so maybe getting to know each other. And that kind of taps into the next point. But the point being is you have access within a relationship, and for it to grow, there must be an increase in access. And there's various types of relationships and different things. So access will look different. But those who you're in a relationship, one of the things that that's required in order for it to evolve is for access to change, to grow, to have greater access. And sometimes, let's take, for example, a work relationship. The access that you have to your boss may be limited, but it establishes the type of relationship you have. And so it may just be what it is. But if you want to grow in your relationship with a friend, you may have to give that friend more access. And so, the access that my wife and children have to me is different than the access that my friends have with me. My wife has complete 100% access to me. My boys do as well. But when it comes to my friends, they have a different type of access, right? And so, in order for relationships to evolve or grow, you have to begin to think about the concept of access. And so, a good assessment question is how might an increase or decrease of access make current relationships healthier? And the reason that I say increase or decrease is because maybe you need to increase the access that a friend has to you because maybe you're scared of commitment, or you're scared of if they truly knew who you were, they wouldn't stick around. On the flip side of that, you may need to decrease access. There might be individuals who have constant access to you and there's no boundaries. And so whenever somebody hits you up, you respond immediately instead of maybe kind of creating some healthy boundaries to say, you don't have 24/7 access to me all the time. And if you got a problem with that, then we need to have a conversation, right? And so how might an increase or a decrease of access make current relationships healthier? The next part that's involved in terms of what it takes for a relationship to evolve is an increase in knowledge. So if we were to define this to make it practical, relational depth based upon the insight you have about one or more people with whom you are in relation. A perfect example of this is one of my best friends. We went out, very first time we hung out at a restaurant here in town, and we were just getting to know each other. And it had been several months of us getting to know each other, really good friends. We clicked well. We're different enough to challenge each other, but similar enough to comfort one another. And after a few months, there wasn't much knowledge being exchanged. And so I basically was like, hey, bro, I really want to get to know you. Like, I want to hear who you are, where you come from. And so an example of that is it moved beyond who are you, how you doing, to, hey, what's your story? Tell me about the joys and the grief and the delight and the burdens of who you are as a human being. What do you enjoy? What makes you tick? And at that moment, he had to make a decision. Was he going to give me access that included knowledge, or was the access going to remain the same based upon the knowledge that I already had? And thankfully, as previously stated in the previous video, the relational risk that we both took, we decided, hey, we're going to give more access, we're going to increase knowledge, and as a result, we became closer friends. And so again, a good assessment question is, how might an increase or a decrease in knowledge contribute to your current relationships? And again, I use increase and decrease is because some people, may not have earned the trust and may not have the same level of safety in your mind to share the more vulnerable parts of you, right? But then again, on the other side of that, you may have friends or people that you're in relation to that have earned a specific level of trust, and you do consider them to be safe individuals that aren't going to harm you. And it might be good to increase the level of knowledge that they have mutually. And so you sharing part of your story of that may be a bit more sensitive. Maybe a situation in the past that was highly formative, but that you're not necessarily proud of, or something that may have happened in the past that was highly formative and that you feel arrogant for sharing with everyone, but someone who you trust and can share and celebrate with you, you want to share that with. And so in order for relationships to evolve, we've got access, an increase in access, an increase in knowledge, and then lastly, an increase in delight, relational satisfaction and joy. If you practically place this within the context of life, you simply enjoy being around the person with whom you're in a relation with. I can't tell you, we had during particular seasons of life, I have certain friends that I can call up and be like, I just want to let you know I really appreciate you always being in my corner. And when I think about them, there's just a great sense of delight. And so for relationships to evolve and grow, there has to be a mutual delight. There has to be a mutual satisfaction. And kind of a good indicator is if you were to think, man, what are the relationships that I'm in that is zero delight? Um, it might be good to kind of think through, why is that the case? Is it a healthy relationship? Is it a good relationship? Should it be a relationship that you're in? And so a good assessment is how might the idea of delight shed light upon your current relationships? And so for me, I think about all my friends, and they're individuals that when I think about them, it stirs up a particular amount of delight. And what you'll find is depending on the access, the knowledge, and the light, it kind of serves as a good way to think about how that relationship could evolve or grow. And or if there isn't any delight, to be able to ask the question, why is that? Is it a me problem? Is it a them problem? Is it an us problem? And is it worth kind of taking a risk, risking a rupture in order to repair something that may not be the most satisfying or joyful type of relationship? And so those are real quick, just 3 snippets. How do relationships evolve? An increase in access, an increase in knowledge, and an increase in delight. And what you'll find is over time that particular relationships demand particular types of growth. And so you're not going to have, in work relationships, you may not have the most access. And that's okay, because you understand that that's the type of relationship it is. But if you want relationships to evolve and to grow, then those are 3 areas that you have to think about, and you have to be aware of and work on. And so, again, access, knowledge, and delight. These concepts are borrowed from Pastor Wally Sherban's Destined for the Trinity. And so if we were to summarize the previous video, part 1 and part 2, and we were to answer our questions again, what is involved in relationships? Relational risks, relational ruptures, relational repairs, and relational renewals. For more content on that, just go back and watch the video. And then for today, how do relationships evolve and increase in access, knowledge, and delight? And to be able to think through, is this a relationship that is going to require some work for it to grow, or is this type of relationship that is just, there's limited access or limited knowledge and there's limited delight, and that's okay. And to be able to think about it within the context of relationships. And so, again, I hope this content was helpful. Real quick, brief, hopefully very practical, just some ideas for you to be able to think, how can I adapt this? How can I make this my own? How can I develop maybe some systems or paradigms of thinking that will contribute to relationships, which in turn, as you work and invest in relationships, you will see that your mental health gets better. And so, again, hopefully this content will contribute to your overall flourishing. If it's helpful, please like it, subscribe, send it out to your friends, put it on social media feeds. We want folks to know that the Center for Wholeness and Wellness exists at Asbury for all students in an effort to assist you in any way that we can. Our hope is to help and to contribute to your individual and communal flourishing. And so thanks for tuning in. And until next time.